Momentum begins the moment you decide that wealth is no longer optional but a standard you're committed to building. This audiobook guides you through 10 chapters, defining your baseline, eliminating drains, building disciplined habits, automating growth, expanding income, strengthening boundaries, mastering emotional spending, applying simple systems, worrying long-term assets, and protecting your progress. Each chapter gives you practical steps you can use the same day, turning small actions into lasting financial transformation. Subscribe to Audiobook every day to receive powerful, clear, and actionable wealth-building lessons delivered daily, helping you stay consistent, focused, and unstoppable on your financial journey. Number 1. Track expenses daily to build clarity. Clarity around money begins with the courage to look at it honestly. Most people try to escape this step because it feels uncomfortable. They avoid their expenses the same way people avoid looking into a mirror when life becomes messy. But wealth does not grow in the dark. It grows under the light of awareness. Tracking expenses daily is not a punishment. It is an act of self-respect. It is the quiet discipline that separates those who build their future from those who drift into financial confusion. Money is simply a reflection of choices, patterns, and priorities, and seeing those clearly gives you strength before it gives you wealth. When you start tracking your expenses every day, you begin to understand your habits at a deeper level. You see the small leaks you once ignored. You notice the emotional purchases you once justified. You become aware of how often you spend out of boredom, stress, or impulse. This clarity is uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. With each day of tracking, the fog slowly lifts, and you begin to see the truth of your financial life. Not the truth you wish you had, but the truth you need in order to grow. The mind becomes sharper when it observes rather than avoids. That is the Stoic way. Meet reality with calm attention, not blind reaction. When you record your spending, you shift from being controlled by your impulses to controlling your direction. You give yourself permission to make better decisions because you can finally see where the money is going. Wealth building is rarely about making one big decision. It is about thousands of small ones, repeated with intention, and you cannot improve what you refuse to measure. Daily tracking does something psychological that monthly budgeting never achieves. It stops the drift. It keeps you awake. It reminds you that every choice has weight. A small, unnecessary purchase feels harmless when viewed alone. But when you see it daily, it becomes a pattern you can no longer deny. That pattern becomes a story, and the story eventually becomes your financial future. By tracking expenses each day, you interrupt the automatic behavior that quietly steals wealth from you over the years. This practice also trains discipline in a way that naturally spills into other areas of life. When you learn to control the flow of your money, you learn to control the flow of your attention, your energy, and your time. You become aware of what you value and what you've been pretending to value. The numbers reveal your truth, and once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. That is the beginning of real change. Start with something simple. Write down every expense the moment it happens. No analysis, no judgment, just record it. This simple act creates a pause between impulse and action. That pause is power. Over time, you begin to notice that you feel differently before certain purchases. Sometimes you feel rushed. Sometimes you feel stressed. Sometimes you feel the itch of wanting something new. By tracking your expenses, you learn the emotional patterns behind your financial behavior. Wealth is emotional first and mathematical second. Clarity grows even further when you categorize your spending. You see how much is going toward food, transportation, subscriptions, entertainment, or habits you barely acknowledged. Some categories shock you. Others disappoint you. A few may make you proud. What matters is that you now have a map. A map reveals where you stand and the direction you must go next. No traveler succeeds without one. Whether you earn little or much, you cannot escape the importance of this map. Daily tracking also removes the illusion that small things don't matter. They matter more than you realize. Most financial downfall comes from repeated small decisions, not major disasters. Overspending by a little every day grows into a problem that follows people for years. But the opposite is also true. Saving small amounts each day grows into a force that can change your entire financial future. Tracking expenses is how you stay aware of the difference between being careless and being intentional. There is also a quiet confidence that develops from this habit. You begin to feel in control of your financial direction rather than controlled by it. Money no longer feels mysterious or unpredictable. You know where it goes. You know why it goes there. You begin to see opportunities to reduce waste without feeling deprived. You make room for financial goals that once felt impossible. Clarity creates possibility, and possibility creates momentum. As you track consistently, you start noticing your priorities shift. You might choose to cook instead of doing another unnecessary delivery order. You might cancel a subscription you forgot existed. You might stop buying things just to feel momentarily better. And you may realize that the feeling you were chasing through spending can be replaced with something far more stable. The peace of knowing your money is building your future instead of weakening it. Daily tracking is how this peace begins. There will be days when you do not want to track anything. Days when life feels heavy. Days when spending feels like an escape. These are the days that matter most. Anyone can track expenses when life is smooth. Growth happens when you track them despite discomfort. That is how self-mastery is built. Discipline deepens when it is maintained under pressure. Each time you choose awareness over avoidance, you grow stronger than the day before. The long-term impact of daily tracking cannot be overstated. You start to notice trends before they become problems. You catch overspending early. You adjust your habits before they spiral. You begin to anticipate expenses instead of being surprised by them. You create space for saving, investing, and planning. Your relationship with money becomes healthier, calmer, and more strategic. You start to see money as a tool, not a burden, and you treat it with the respect it deserves. There will also be unexpected benefits. You may find you feel more grounded and less anxious. Financial uncertainty creates emotional unrest. Knowing the numbers settles the mind. You may also begin to trust yourself more. Confidence grows from doing what you said you would do. Tracking every day is a promise you make to yourself. Every day you keep that promise, you strengthen your inner foundation. Building wealth from zero requires inner transformation as much as outer strategy. The person who avoids their expenses cannot manage wealth, but the person who confronts them daily is already becoming someone capable of handling abundance. Wealth does not arrive to those who hope, it arrives to those who prepare. Tracking expenses is that preparation. With enough time, daily tracking becomes second nature. It stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like a natural part of your day. You begin to make decisions with clarity instead of confusion. You start directing your money like a leader instead of chasing it like a servant. And the discipline you build becomes the foundation for every future financial step you take. The journey to wealth begins with awareness. Before you earn more, save more, or invest more, you must understand your current relationship with money. This habit brings that understanding. It sharpens your judgment, strengthens your discipline, and reveals the path forward. The clarity you gain from tracking your expenses each day becomes the light that guides your financial life out of uncertainty and into purpose. This habit is simple, but uncomfortable. It demands honesty, presence, and responsibility. Yet it is one of the most powerful habits you will ever develop. Those who track their expenses daily build clarity. Those who build clarity build control. And those who build control build wealth. Number 2. Build scalable skills that increase income. Income grows in proportion to the value a person can create, and that value comes from skills capable of expanding beyond the limits of time. Scalable skills do not stay small. They multiply your earning potential because they allow your effort to produce results larger than the hours you put in. When you commit to building these skills, you give yourself the ability to break free from ceilings that keep most people stuck in the same financial place year after year. A skill that expands your opportunities becomes a doorway to a new level of life, and you step through that doorway by choosing to grow intentionally rather than relying on hope or luck. Many people work hard but remain trapped because their skills are fixed. They trade hours for money, and every increase depends on working longer, not smarter. Scalable skills change this dynamic. They create leverage. They allow one effort to produce multiple returns. They empower you to expand your income without sacrificing your health, your time, or your peace. Learning them is an investment in your future self, And like any investment, the earlier and more consistently you nourish it, the greater the rewards become. The first step is understanding that skill building is not about talent. It is about repetition, patience, and the willingness to be uncomfortable until growth becomes natural. Anyone can learn a scalable skill. The difference lies in who is willing to stay consistent long enough to become exceptional. Whether you choose communication, digital creation, technology, entrepreneurship, marketing, problem solving, or strategic thinking, the process is the same. Focus intensely, improve steadily, and refuse to settle for the level where most people stop. As you develop new skills, you start noticing shifts in your mindset. You become more aware of opportunities that previously went unnoticed. You begin to see how your abilities connect to the needs of the world. Demand creates income, and when your skills meet that demand, doors begin to open. People seek you out because you bring something valuable to the table: solutions, clarity, creativity, efficiency, or results. This is where your income starts rising without begging, struggling, or hoping. It rises because you become someone whose work naturally commands more. The journey begins by choosing a skill that aligns with both your interests and the opportunities around you. Curiosity helps you stay engaged through the difficult early stages, and relevance ensures the skill has a real place in the marketplace. Once chosen, immerse yourself. Study it during quiet moments. Practice it in small doses each day. Observe how experts execute it. Break it down into pieces and strengthen each part until it becomes second nature. The mind grows sharper when it is challenged consistently, and growth compounds when you pursue improvement on a daily basis. There will be days when progress feels slow, but slow progress is still progress. Skills do not grow in straight lines. They grow in sudden jumps after long periods of effort that seem invisible. Most people quit before these jumps occur. They mistake silence for failure. In truth, that silence is where your foundations are forming. Stay patient through it. Each hour of practice stores potential that will burst forward later. This is how mastery is built, not through rush, but through persistence. As your skills expand, your confidence begins to shift. Knowing you have something of genuine value changes how you see yourself. It removes the feeling of being trapped or limited. It proves that you can build your own opportunities rather than waiting for them. With this confidence comes a new kind of courage, the courage to ask for higher pay, the courage to pursue independent income streams, the courage to take on challenges that once felt intimidating. Your skills become your quiet armor, protecting you from financial vulnerability and giving you the freedom to make choices based on purpose rather than fear. Income increases not only through the skill itself, but through the discipline that forms during the learning process. When you dedicate time to improvement, you train your mind to stay focused. You strengthen your ability to delay gratification. You develop patience that becomes valuable in every area of your financial life. The inner transformation becomes as important as the outer growth. Skill building teaches you resilience, and resilience increases your earning potential, because people who stay calm under pressure become rare and valuable. With time, scalable skills open the door to multiple possibilities. Freelancing, online work, digital products, consulting, business ownership, leadership roles, or higher-paying positions. You begin to realize that the world rewards those who can produce measurable impact. This impact grows dramatically when your skills allow you to serve more people in less time. That is the core of scalability. One effort creates multiple benefits. One idea reaches thousands. One solution helps many. One project earns repeated income. The more you learn, the more leverage you gain. The process becomes even more powerful when you combine skills together. For example, communication combined with strategy creates leadership. Technology combined with creativity produces digital opportunities. Marketing combined with product creation forms a foundation for entrepreneurship. Skills, like tools, become even more powerful when used together. Each new ability strengthens the others, and your income potential grows in ways you never expected. Throughout this journey, humility remains essential. Mastery requires constant learning. The moment you believe you know enough, your growth slows. Stay a student, even as your skills rise. Treat every project as a chance to improve. Treat every mistake as data. Treat every challenge as training. This mindset keeps your skills alive and evolving. The world is always shifting, and the people who adapt are the ones who stay ahead. One of the deepest rewards of building scalable skills is the internal stability it creates. When you know that your abilities can generate income in multiple ways, fear loses its grip. Economic changes, job uncertainty, or unexpected challenges no longer feel like threats. You carry the knowledge that you can rebuild, create, and adapt. That self-reliance becomes a powerful source of peace, and peace is a form of wealth often overlooked. The path may be long, but it is worth every moment. Each hour invested in your skills is an hour shaping your future. Each lesson learned becomes a step away from financial struggle. Each improvement becomes a quiet contribution to the life you want to build. No one can take a skill from you, and nothing compounds more reliably than personal growth. When you expand your capabilities, you expand your opportunities. When you expand your opportunities, you expand your income. And when your income grows through your own effort and discipline, you gain a sense of strength that transforms every part of your life. Building scalable skills is a long-term strategy, but its results last far longer than short-term tricks or temporary boosts. It is a path that demands effort, but that effort leads to growth, confidence, and freedom. The moment you commit to becoming someone capable of earning more, you begin rewriting your financial story. Each day of improvement becomes a quiet victory. Each new skill becomes a seed for future wealth. And with enough seeds planted, the harvest becomes inevitable. Number 3. Automate savings first to grow consistent. Consistency in savings begins with removing the need for willpower. Relying on motivation to save works only on good days, and wealth cannot be built on occasional effort. When savings become automatic, they turn into a quiet force that strengthens your financial foundation without requiring daily struggle. This approach creates a system that protects your future even when your discipline fluctuates, and that stability is what most people lack. Automation transforms saving from something you try to do into something that simply happens, and that shift becomes the difference between unpredictable progress and steady growth. The moment savings are taken out before you touch the money, everything changes. Your relationship with income shifts from reacting to planning. You stop telling yourself you will save whatever is left at the end of the month because that rarely works. Life expands to fill the space available, and so does spending. But when savings are removed automatically, your brain adapts to the remaining amount without resistance. It feels natural. You adjust your lifestyle without even realizing it, and this effortless adjustment becomes the key to long-term financial strength. There is something powerful in knowing that every paycheck moves you forward. That certainty removes stress and brings a sense of order into your financial life. You no longer live in a cycle of guilt for not saving enough or fear about the future. Automation removes the emotional battles that drain energy and attention. It gives you a calm foundation where progress happens quietly, consistently, and reliably. Even small amounts grow into meaningful results because time amplifies every contribution, and automation ensures the contributions never stop. Creating this system is simple, but its impact is profound. The first step is deciding a percentage that fits your current situation. It does not need to be large. Starting small is more effective than delaying until you feel ready. Even a tiny automated amount builds momentum, and momentum strengthens habits. Once the system is active, you increase the amount gradually. The mind adapts easily to small changes, and each increase multiplies your long-term growth. Over time, the habit becomes effortless, and savings become an inseparable part of your financial identity. Automation also protects you from impulsive decisions. It removes the temptation to use money the moment it arrives. Without the automation, income feels like a signal to spend. With automation, the money is divided before emotion can interfere. This creates a healthy distance between you and your impulses. The result is not restriction but freedom. You can spend the remaining amount without fear because you know your future is already being taken care of. That clarity brings relief, and relief strengthens discipline. There is also a psychological shift that occurs when you see your savings begin to grow consistently. Even small balances create a sense of accomplishment. This sense of progress deepens motivation. You begin to feel capable, prepared, and responsible. These feelings matter because people rarely save due to lack of knowledge. They struggle because saving does not feel rewarding at first. Automation solves this by creating visible progress without daily decisions. Progress is the fuel that keeps you moving, and automation ensures the fuel never runs out. Once your automated savings system is in place, it becomes a foundation for more advanced financial decisions. It prepares you for opportunities because you have resources ready. It shields you from emergencies because you are no longer caught off guard. It opens paths to investing because your savings accumulate in predictable patterns. You begin to plan your future with confidence rather than uncertainty. This confidence allows you to make calmer choices, and calm decisions build stronger financial outcomes. Automation also reinforces the principle of paying yourself before paying the world. Most people do the opposite. They sacrifice their future for their present without realizing the long-term cost. When you automate savings first, you send a message to yourself that your future matters. It becomes an act of dignity, not deprivation. From a Stoic perspective, this is a form of self-governance. You take control of what you can control, and you protect yourself from what you cannot control. Life becomes less fragile because your financial structure becomes stronger. This habit also changes how you view money. Instead of seeing income as something that disappears quickly, you see it as something that accumulates with purpose. You begin to understand that wealth is not only about earning more, but about keeping what you earn. Saving consistently creates a cushion that allows you to breathe. It creates space between you and the chaos of unexpected events. That space is freedom, and freedom is one of the greatest forms of wealth. Another power of automation is its ability to grow quietly in the background. You do not have to think about it. You do not have to fight yourself. You do not have to battle temptations every month. The system handles the work. Your only job is to continue living within what remains. Over time, your automated savings expand into something meaningful, and you realize that the system was not built to restrict you. It was built to support you. Automation also removes inconsistency, which is one of the biggest threats to financial growth. Many people save well for a few months and then stop. This inconsistency prevents momentum from forming. Money grows steadily only through uninterrupted deposits, no matter how small. Automation ensures those deposits happen even when you are busy, stressed, distracted, or unmotivated. It keeps your growth uninterrupted. That uninterrupted growth becomes power. The value of this habit becomes even more visible during difficult times. When pressure arises, many people stop saving and fall into survival mode. But if your savings are automated, they continue working silently even when life feels heavy. You may not notice the deposits in real time, but they accumulate. They protect you. They give you options. They keep you from feeling completely powerless. This stability brings emotional strength because you know that despite challenges, your future is still being built. With enough time, your automated savings transform into a form of self-trust. You trust yourself to prepare. You trust yourself to stay consistent. You trust yourself to build a life that is stable and secure. This trust shapes your identity. It changes the way you see your potential. It shifts your mindset from scarcity to capability. You realize that wealth is not created by intense effort once in a while, but by steady effort applied consistently. Automation makes that steady effort possible. The path to financial growth does not require perfection. It requires systems that continue working even when you feel imperfect. Automating your savings turns discipline into a structure that protects you from your weaker moments and magnifies your stronger moments. It ensures that your future receives attention even on the days you are unable to think about it. Over years, this becomes one of the greatest advantages you can create for yourself. Saving automatically is more than a financial strategy. It is a life philosophy. It is the belief that your future deserves priority. It is the commitment to build stability before seeking comfort. It is the discipline to act before emotion interferes. And it is the wisdom to understand that consistent growth comes not from dramatic changes, but from small steps taken relentlessly. Automation is the quiet engine behind lasting wealth. It turns intention into habit, habit into progress, and progress into transformation. When savings happen first and automatically, your financial life begins to flow with clarity, purpose, and strength. Over time, this single decision becomes one of the most powerful choices you ever make for your future. Number 4. Remove hidden liabilities, draining your progress. Progress slows not because people lack ambition, but because silent financial burdens follow them everywhere. without being noticed. Hidden liabilities are the quiet forces that weaken stability, drain energy, and restrict growth. They are the obligations, habits, and commitments that feel small individually but collectively pull a person backward. Removing these silent drains is not only a financial task, but a mental and emotional cleansing. It creates space for improvement, clarity for planning, and strength for consistent growth. When these burdens are exposed and eliminated, progress accelerates in a way that feels almost effortless. Most people focus on earning more while ignoring the quiet leaks that dilute everything they gain. Money enters their life through one door and slips out through 10 smaller ones. This happens not because of poor intention, but because the human mind adapts quickly to comfort and familiarity. Small charges, unnecessary subscriptions, unused services, impulse-driven purchases, and lingering debts become normalized. They blend into the background and feel harmless. Over time, these invisible weights accumulate, and the person feels financially exhausted without understanding why. Recognizing these subtle drains is the first step toward regaining control. Hidden liabilities often begin as conveniences: a subscription to something that once felt useful, a service that seemed affordable, a payment plan chosen to avoid discomfort, a minor loan taken to handle stress, a habit developed during emotional moments. Each one appears insignificant in isolation, but the accumulation slowly traps a person. The mind becomes accustomed to these tiny obligations, and soon they feel like permanent parts of life. Removing them requires honesty, an unfiltered look at what is helping your future and what is silently holding it back. One of the most powerful ways to uncover hidden liabilities is to examine your ongoing commitments line by line. When you look at every recurring charge with a calm and observant mindset, patterns reveal themselves. You find expenses tied to old habits, outdated interests, or past versions of yourself. You see charges that no longer serve your goals or values. You notice how convenience quietly became an unnecessary cost. This moment of awareness often brings a mix of surprise and relief. Surprise because you never realized how much you were carrying. Relief because you now have the chance to release it. Once you identify these hidden drains, the next step is to eliminate them without hesitation. The act of removing a liability is more than a financial adjustment. It is an act of reclaiming power. It is a statement that you refuse to be weighed down by commitments that no longer serve a purpose. This is where discipline becomes essential. The mind may resist letting go of familiar comforts, but growth requires choosing long-term stability over short-term ease. Each liability removed becomes a shift toward a more efficient, intentional life. Not all hidden liabilities come in financial form. Some exist in patterns of behavior, emotional spending, impulsive choices, and stress-driven purchases, quietly weaken progress the same way recurring bills do. These habits drain mental clarity and reduce control. Recognizing them demands self-awareness. You observe the moments when money leaves your hands without thought. You pay attention to the emotions behind those choices. You begin to see that certain triggers consistently lead to unnecessary costs. This understanding creates room for improvement. When you address the emotional roots behind financial decisions, you reduce the number of drains that sabotage your efforts. Another form of hidden liability lies in obligations taken on for the sake of pleasing others. Lending money out of guilt, taking financial responsibilities that you cannot sustain, paying for things out of fear of judgment. These obligations slowly drain your stability. They create tension and resentment. Removing these liabilities requires courage. It means setting boundaries, learning to say no, and recognizing that protecting your own progress is not selfishness. It is responsibility. When you release these unnecessary obligations, you free your time, energy, and resources to build a future aligned with your own priorities. There are also liabilities formed through outdated beliefs about success. Many people spend money to project an image rather than build a foundation. They buy things to feel accomplished instead of developing habits that lead to genuine growth. Image-driven spending is one of the most harmful hidden liabilities because it often goes unchallenged. It feels normal. It feels like what everyone else is doing, but it drains financial strength quickly and provides nothing lasting in return. Removing this liability means choosing substance over appearance. It means valuing progress that cannot be seen over illusions that fade quickly. Some hidden liabilities are attached to convenience. Small delivery fees that accumulate, fees for faster service, charges for avoiding minor effort, and costs tied to habits of instant gratification. These conveniences often feel harmless, but over a year they can amount to significant financial loss. When you become aware of these patterns, you begin to question whether convenience is helping or harming you. You ask yourself whether the comfort is worth the long-term cost. Often, it is not. Choosing mindful effort over unnecessary convenience strengthens discipline and keeps your resources aligned with your goals. Removing hidden liabilities also clears mental space. Every financial burden, visible or invisible, takes a toll on the mind. It creates background stress, reduces motivation, and narrows focus. When liabilities are eliminated, the mind feels lighter, decisions become clearer, planning becomes easier. Progress feels smoother. This mental clarity is not a small benefit. It is a major turning point. A mind that is free from hidden burdens has more energy to build, experiment, and grow. It becomes easier to take action because you are no longer weighed down by constant financial tension. Clearing these drains also strengthens your sense of control. You begin to realize that progress was never out of reach. You were simply carrying too much unnecessary weight. Each liability removed reinforces the belief that you can shape your financial life intentionally. That belief becomes fuel for further growth. It motivates you to examine your habits more closely, to refine your choices more thoughtfully, and to structure your life around your long-term goals rather than short-term impulses. As you remove more liabilities, you begin to notice something profound. Progress accelerates not because you are working harder, but because you are no longer being pulled backward. Your savings grow faster, your stress reduces, your energy increases, your focus sharpens, you make clearer decisions. The improvement becomes noticeable in every area of your life. This shift does not happen by adding more effort, but by removing the obstacles that quietly consumed your potential. Eliminating hidden liabilities is an ongoing practice. New drains can appear as life changes. New habits form. New commitments arise. Remaining aware ensures that you identify them quickly, before they become heavy. This continuous awareness is a form of self-discipline. It reflects a commitment to protecting your progress at all costs. You treat your financial life with the attention it deserves, and in return, your financial life rewards you with stability, growth, and freedom. By removing these quiet drains, you create a future where your efforts lead to visible results. You strengthen the foundation beneath your goals. You protect your progress from erosion, and you give yourself the space to grow without carrying unnecessary weight. The path to wealth becomes clearer when liabilities are cleared from your way, because progress flows naturally when nothing is pulling you backward. Number 5. Use micro-budgets to prevent emotional spending. Emotional spending quietly slips into daily life, often disguised as harmless rewards or small comforts. Yet each unplanned purchase subtly erodes long-term stability. To gain control without feeling restricted, micro-budgets offer a simple but powerful structure. Tiny spending limits assigned to categories that usually trigger impulsive decisions. Instead of relying on willpower, you place boundaries around the situations where your emotions tend to influence your wallet. This approach doesn't shrink your life, it expands your awareness. It gives you the clarity to see patterns, the discipline to redirect impulses, and the confidence to know that every dollar has intention behind it. Micro-budgets work because they remove ambiguity. When you only have a vague sense of how much you should spend, emotions fill the gap and lead the process. By reducing uncertainty, you reduce emotional friction. You choose a small amount for categories like snacks, quick online purchases, delivery food, or spontaneous outings. These tiny caps force presence. Before each decision, you naturally pause and check the remaining balance. That pause, just a few seconds, is what disrupts emotional momentum. It creates space for reasoning to catch up to impulse, turning spending into a conscious act rather than a reaction. The real transformation happens when you track these micro-budgets daily. Not obsessively, not with shame, simply with curiosity. You begin noticing the emotional triggers behind each purchase. You may observe that stress pushes you toward convenience buys. Boredom may spark wandering through online shops. Social pressure may tempt you toward unnecessary outings. By looking at patterns instead of blaming yourself, You develop financial self-awareness. You stop overspending not because you force yourself to be disciplined, but because you begin understanding your internal landscape. The more you learn about your emotional cues, the less they control you. Micro-budgets also help you separate desires. Some urges fade when restricted, others remain because they reflect deeper needs. A craving for connection might disguise itself as impulse shopping. A lack of rest might appear as frequent takeout spending. A feeling of stagnation may manifest in random purchases seeking excitement. With small budget limits, these deeper reasons surface more clearly, allowing you to address the need instead of treating the symptom. This naturally reduces emotional spending at its core, not just at the surface level. You also build small victories quickly. Micro-budgets make progress easy to measure. Ending a week with money left in a category gives a tangible feeling of achievement, signaling to your brain that restraint is rewarding rather than depriving. These micro-wins gradually rewire habits. You begin treating money with greater respect because success becomes familiar. The numbers on your budget become a scoreboard showing that you're gaining control over your reactions and choices. Another advantage of micro-budgets is that they prevent cascade spending. Emotional spending often comes in waves. You spend once impulsively, then justify spending more because the day is already ruined. Small limits stop that chain at the start. When your snack budget hits zero, it ends there. You redirect your energy instead of spiraling into a full day of financial neglect. It's containment rather than collapse. This method also builds resilience. When emotions push you to spend, and you intentionally choose a different response, you strengthen the part of your mind that values long-term growth. Each moment of restraint amplifies your ability to handle future temptations. Instead of reacting, you begin responding. The distinction seems subtle, but it changes your relationship with money entirely. Money becomes a tool you direct, not a variable your mood manipulates. Micro-budgets encourage creativity too. When limits are small, you look for alternatives. You might cook instead of ordering delivery. You might choose free activities instead of paid indulgences. You might explore hobbies that don't drain your wallet. These alternatives don't just save money, they enrich your life with diversity, balance, and resourcefulness. You discover that emotional comfort doesn't need to come from spending. It can come from connection, movement, rest, or creativity. As weeks pass, your financial environment becomes healthier. You stop fearing your bank balance. You stop wondering where your money went. You stop feeling guilty after impulsive buys. Instead, you become someone who knows exactly how much you can spend, where you stand, and what you're building. The stability you create with these tiny rules strengthens your confidence in every area of your life. You start making decisions with purpose, not pressure. You start choosing long-term satisfaction over short-term escape. Over time, micro-budgets scale your sense of ownership. You see that mastering small amounts makes mastering large amounts easier. The discipline, awareness, and intentionality you cultivate now become tools that follow you into investments, saving strategies, and major financial milestones. This simple method becomes a foundation for a stronger, clearer, more empowered financial identity. When emotional spending no longer dictates your choices, your money stops disappearing into temporary comfort. It starts building your future instead. Micro-budgets don't restrict your freedom, they reveal where your freedom truly begins. Number 6. Turn small savings into income assets. Every journey toward financial independence begins with a single habit, transforming small, overlooked amounts of money into assets that quietly produce income. Most people believe wealth requires massive capital, yet the truth is far simpler. Consistency creates leverage, and leverage creates freedom. The smallest pockets of money, coins ignored, change left untracked, tiny cuts from unnecessary spending, carry the potential to reshape your financial identity when redirected into vehicles that grow on their own. What matters is not the size of your contributions, but the direction they travel and the systems you establish to keep them flowing automatically. The habit starts with capturing money you barely notice. These amounts feel insignificant, so they slip through your fingers without a second thought. But when collected intentionally, they become seeds. A few saved dollars might enter a high-yield savings account where returns compound quietly. A weekly contribution could be directed into a low-cost index fund that slowly accumulates ownership in hundreds of companies. Even micro-investing platforms allow tiny amounts to purchase fractional shares of assets you once assumed were out of reach. When money enters an asset instead of an impulse purchase, you create a shift. Your funds stop disappearing and start multiplying. Momentum builds faster than expected. Once you experience the feeling of watching an account grow because of tiny, consistent inputs, your perception of money changes. You no longer dismiss small amounts as worthless. You start treating them like units of possibility. You begin noticing opportunities to redirect savings from forgotten subscriptions, late-night deliveries, or impulse buys towards something that grows instead of fades. The discipline becomes self-reinforcing, because every contribution, no matter how small, becomes proof that you're building something meaningful. Turning savings into assets also reshapes your mindset around time. Instead of chasing quick wins, you start valuing steady progress. You see your contributions as bricks in a structure that will eventually support you. You recognize that every asset, regardless of size, behaves like a silent worker, operating in the background, generating earnings without needing your constant involvement. You begin shifting from the role of consumer to the role of owner, from reacting to life to constructing it. Ownership changes your confidence. It gives you something that grows even when you're sleeping, resting, or simply living. The key to making this approach effective is selecting income-generating assets suited to your current stage. For beginners, it might start with simple, low-risk options, index funds, automated investing apps, high-yield savings, or small positions in dividend-paying stocks. Over time, you may expand into cash flow-positive digital assets, such as content libraries, low-maintenance online products, or skills monetized through microservices. Each step introduces you to new forms of passive or semi-passive income. The goal is not to gamble or chase unrealistic returns, but to build streams that grow steadily and sustainably. What makes this transformation powerful is the shift from sporadic saving to purposeful allocation. A few dollars saved without direction doesn't change much, but those same dollars placed into investments that compound can double or triple over time. Compounding is slow at first, barely noticeable, but just like interest builds layer after layer, your discipline strengthens every time you choose assets over expenses. Eventually, you begin to witness a turning point, the moment when your assets start generating more than you contribute. This psychological shift fuels even more consistent saving, because you see proof that your money is working. You also begin detaching from financial anxiety. Instead of feeling vulnerable to unexpected expenses or unpredictable moments, you gain reassurance from knowing that a portion of your money is protected and productive. Assets create stability, something emotional spending or untracked habits can never offer. This sense of safety expands your decision-making ability. You feel less pressured, less reactive, and more in control of your path. Another advantage of turning small savings into income assets is the flexibility it creates. You start choosing opportunities rather than waiting for luck. A growing investment account becomes a tool you can use to seize low-risk ventures, purchase equipment for a side project, or build passive digital products. This optionality is what separates individuals who grow steadily from those who remain stuck. When opportunities appear, you're ready not because you suddenly became wealthy overnight, but because you built your foundation brick by brick. You also develop an eye for value. Instead of being swayed by trends, you begin favoring assets with durability. You see the difference between something that temporarily entertains you and something that continuously benefits you. This refined judgment influences every financial decision you make. You become more patient, more deliberate, and more protective of your future. You stop trading long-term stability for short-lived satisfaction. As your assets grow, so does your identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone trying to save and start seeing yourself as an investor, someone who builds wealth by planting seeds frequently and letting time handle the heavy lifting. This change in self-perception fuels pride and discipline. You start celebrating small contributions because you understand what they represent. They are commitments to your future self, promises that you intend to keep growing. With enough consistency, the results compound not only in your accounts but in your habits, your confidence, and your perspective. You start noticing that money begins flowing toward you instead of away from you. You build streams that strengthen your life without demanding more of your time. You create a slow but unstoppable upward trajectory. And it all starts with those small pockets of money most people ignore. The key is not waiting for the perfect moment. The moment you place the first tiny amount into an asset, you break the cycle of stagnation. You signal to yourself that you're done being passive. You're building something, even if the steps feel small today. Every contribution amplifies the next. Every asset becomes a silent partner in your growth. Every dollar you redirect becomes a building block of the life you intend to live. Through small amounts and consistent effort, your financial foundation strengthens, your opportunities expand, and your future becomes something you shape rather than something you fear. Number 7. Add new income streams through learning. Growth accelerates the moment you decide that one source of income will never be enough to build the life you envision. Relying on a single stream traps you in a fragile position where your financial stability depends on circumstances outside your control. When you expand your earning capacity through learning, you free yourself from limitations that once felt permanent. Every new skill becomes a doorway to fresh opportunities, and each opportunity holds the potential to create an additional flow of income that strengthens your long-term security. The willingness to learn is the root of every new income path, because it transforms your mind into a productive asset capable of generating value repeatedly. New income streams rarely appear by chance. They are the result of curiosity, disciplined study, and the courage to explore unfamiliar territory. When you commit to learning with intention, you move differently. You observe industries with sharper awareness. You notice gaps others overlook. You identify problems that require solutions and skills that are in growing demand. You begin recognizing that knowledge is not just information, it is leverage. A single skill, when mastered, can produce income far beyond traditional expectations, and the world offers countless avenues for developing new skills that match your pace, your interests, and your long-term goals. The process begins by understanding what the marketplace rewards. Skills that solve problems tend to generate income more consistently than skills built solely on passion without direction. When you take time to study trends, whether in digital services, creative fields, technical domains, or communication, you uncover opportunities to serve others in ways that bring value. That value becomes the foundation of your new income stream. Even skills that seem small at first can grow into powerful assets when applied consistently. A simple ability such as writing clearly, organizing tasks, creating visuals, or explaining complex topics can be shaped into a marketable service when developed with discipline. As you learn, your confidence expands. You stop thinking from a place of limitation and start viewing yourself as someone capable of reinvention. Every time you absorb a new concept, practice a new method, or experiment with a new tool, you strengthen the belief that you can create your own financial path. This belief is more valuable than any paycheck. It becomes the foundation for sustained growth because it pushes you to explore further, try new approaches, and step into opportunities others avoid. The courage to learn transforms your identity from someone waiting for chances to someone building them. Each skill you acquire can evolve into multiple income streams when applied creatively. For example, learning design may lead to freelance work, digital products, templates, or consulting. Developing skill in communication may open doors to coaching, content creation, workshops, or copywriting. Technical abilities can translate into high-demand remote jobs, microservices, automation tools, or specialized digital projects. The key is to understand that one skill is never limited to one path. Your learning becomes a multiplier that unlocks new ways to earn without requiring more hours of labor. Expanding your income also requires patience, because learning does not pay off instantly. The world rewards those who persist through the early stages of uncertainty. When you begin a new skill, the gap between where you are and where you want to be may feel overwhelming, yet this discomfort is a sign that you're stretching beyond the boundaries of your current identity. With every hour of practice, the unfamiliar becomes familiar. Once you develop fluency, you start producing value that others are willing to exchange money for. The transformation from beginner to capable is where most people quit, but those who endure the discomfort end up creating streams of income that stay with them for life. Learning also sharpens your ability to adapt. As the world evolves, technologies shift. Industries transform and opportunities rise and fall. Your skills give you resilience. Instead of fearing change, you meet it with flexibility. You become someone who can adjust, pivot, and move into better positions because you aren't tied to one path. Each new skill acts like a tool in your personal arsenal, helping you build income no matter what circumstances arise. This adaptability becomes one of your greatest advantages, especially when others are stuck hoping that a single job or single market will remain stable. To create new income streams through learning, you must embrace consistent exposure to ideas. Books, videos, courses, mentors, practical experimentation. Each form of learning contributes to your growth in a unique way. The goal is not to absorb everything at once, but to follow a steady rhythm that keeps your mind expanding. Small daily learning habits produce extraordinary results over time. When your mind grows each day, so does your earning potential. What seems complicated today becomes natural tomorrow. What feels beyond your ability eventually becomes part of your skill set. Continuous learning turns your life into an upward trajectory instead of a static one. Your environment also shapes the quality of your learning. When you surround yourself with people who pursue improvement, your ambitions rise. When you observe individuals who have built multiple streams of income, you see the pathways more clearly. Their progress becomes proof that the journey is possible, and your learning becomes more intentional. You begin to model their discipline, their curiosity, and their habit of transforming knowledge into income. You adopt their mindset, and before long you start taking similar steps that lead to similar outcomes. Another powerful benefit of learning is the ability to combine skills. While one skill is valuable, the intersection of 2 or 3 skills often produces unique income opportunities. Someone who understands both communication and video editing can build a stronger brand. Someone who understands both marketing and design can create digital products that sell without active involvement. Someone who knows both writing and technology can build systems that generate recurring revenue. Combinations create rare value, and rare value often produces stable income streams. As you build these new income paths, you also strengthen your sense of independence. You stop viewing money as something controlled exclusively by employers, markets, or circumstances. You begin seeing it as something you can produce through your mind and your efforts. This internal shift is what ultimately changes your future. Once you understand that learning can increase your income again and again, you never feel stuck. You know that another level is always available as long as you keep expanding your skills. With time, your income streams become more stable, more diverse, and more aligned with your strengths. You may start small, offering simple services, taking on low-paying freelance work, or experimenting with micro-products, but each step expands your abilities, and as your abilities grow, so does the quality of your income. You learn to refine your work, improve your offerings, raise your value, and command higher returns. You no longer chase temporary opportunities, you build durable ones. The path of learning is one of the most reliable methods for creating wealth because it strengthens both your mind and your earning potential. It develops discipline, resilience, creativity, and clarity. It gives you options. It allows you to build a financial life supported by multiple sources rather than one fragile stream. Through consistent learning, you create a foundation that continues to reward you long into the future. Each skill becomes a stepping stone. Each stepping stone builds another path, and each path expands your ability to grow beyond the limits you once believed you had. Number 8. Apply simple systems to accelerate compounding. Compounding becomes powerful the moment you create systems that keep working even when your attention drifts. Most people think compounding is only about money growing slowly over decades. Yet the true force lies in building routines that repeat with precision, without relying on motivation or constant effort. The simpler the system, the greater its strength. Complexity collapses under pressure, but simple habits continue functioning during moments of stress, distraction, or uncertainty. When your systems stay consistent, your results accelerate year after year because each step builds on the last without interruption. A simple system begins with clarity. When you know exactly what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, and how it will happen, you remove hesitation. Clarity eliminates friction. Instead of trying to remember to save, invest, learn, or improve, you create a structure that triggers these actions automatically. The fewer decisions you must make, the smoother your progress becomes. A system replaces willpower with rhythm, turning growth into a predictable pattern instead of a hopeful wish. This predictability gives compounding the opportunity to do its work without your emotions interfering. To accelerate compounding, you first need consistency, and consistency comes from removing optionality. When something becomes optional, excuses slip in and progress breaks apart. But when you create a non-negotiable process, such as setting investments to occur automatically, placing fixed dates for reviewing finances, or dedicating specific windows for personal development, you reinforce a cycle that repeats whether or not you feel inspired. Over time, these cycles compound into results so large you could never achieve them through sporadic bursts of effort. Another powerful system involves reducing the cognitive load around your financial decisions. Instead of wondering where your money should go each month, you allocate percentages ahead of time. A portion flows into savings, another into investments, another into skill building, and another toward necessities. This system preserves your energy and minimizes the chances of emotional decisions, redirecting your money toward impulses. When your money follows preset paths, you accelerate compounding because every dollar consistently moves toward growth rather than waste. Systems also help you track progress with clarity. By keeping simple check-ins, like reviewing account balances at regular intervals, recording your income sources, or monitoring habits that impact your finances, you create visibility. Visibility is fuel for improvement. When you see the small increases, you appreciate the process and gain momentum. When you notice inefficiencies, you refine without losing the overall structure. This balance between awareness and automation creates a steady upward trajectory. Another way simple systems amplify compounding is through habit stacking. When one small action consistently triggers another, you create a chain that strengthens itself. For example, checking your expenses might automatically lead to adjusting your budget. Reviewing your investment account might inspire you to increase your contribution. Listening to educational content might push you to practice a new skill. These chains reduce friction and help you produce more value with less effort. Over time, each repeated cycle deepens the compounding effect across multiple areas of your life. The strength of a system is revealed during stressful periods. When life pulls your attention in different directions, a weak structure collapses, but a simple one continues quietly in the background. Your savings keep growing, your investments remain funded, your skills keep improving, and your habits stay intact because they operate independent of temporary hardship. This stability allows compounding to continue during moments when most people stall or regress. You maintain momentum while others lose ground, creating long-term advantages that increase over the years. To build systems that accelerate compounding, start with small, repeatable actions. These could include daily micro-learning sessions, automatic transfers, weekly reviews, or preset contribution schedules. What matters is creating processes so simple you cannot fail. Simplicity prevents overwhelm and guarantees sustainability. As you refine these systems, they begin to feel natural, almost effortless. What once required discipline becomes routine, and what became routine eventually becomes identity. When your identity aligns with growth, compounding accelerates even further. Systems also create emotional distance from your decisions. Emotion-driven financial choices are the main reason people struggle to build wealth. But when your systems operate on logic, automation, and structure, you remove the influence of fear, impatience, and impulsiveness. Your money continues growing regardless of your mood. This discipline becomes one of the greatest accelerators of compounding because it eliminates the stop and start pattern that disrupts growth. Another key factor is predictability. When you know that certain actions will happen every week or every month without fail, you gain mental peace. This peace reduces stress and frees your mind to focus on long-term strategy instead of constant management. Predictability gives compounding the stability it needs to reach its full potential. You no longer worry about whether you're doing the right things because your system ensures it. As you refine your systems, you begin to notice that compounding applies not just to money, but to skills, habits, energy, and confidence. When your financial systems run smoothly, you have more time to focus on skill improvement. When your skill systems operate efficiently, you create more opportunities to earn. When your health habits become structured, you increase your energy and clarity. Each improvement compounds into the next, creating a network of growth that reinforces itself across your entire life. The true acceleration comes when you begin layering systems. One system handles saving, another handles investing, another handles learning, and another manages productivity. These systems operate like gears in a machine. When one gear turns, another moves with it. The more gears you add, the more powerful the machine becomes. Your life starts functioning like a well-designed engine, pushing you forward consistently, even when you're not paying close attention. Over time, the results expand in ways that feel effortless. You look back and realize how much progress came from simple processes that required little thought but delivered massive results. You experience financial stability built on decision-free habits. You develop a stronger sense of control because your systems protect your goals from your emotions. You gain confidence because your growth becomes predictable. This predictability allows compounding to flourish at full strength. The beauty of simple systems is their durability. They survive challenges, adjust to new circumstances, and continue producing value long after the initial effort is gone. They create momentum that builds upon itself year after year. Most people chase complex strategies, hoping for quick gains, yet they overlook the quiet power of simple systems that multiply results consistently. When you commit to these systems, you construct a financial and personal foundation that grows steadily, quietly, and powerfully. In the end, compounding is not a mysterious force reserved for a select few. It is the natural outcome of disciplined systems that repeat without interruption. When your systems run smoothly, your growth becomes inevitable. Your financial life strengthens with each cycle. Your opportunities expand, your confidence rises, and every small action contributes to a future shaped by consistency rather than chance. Through simple systems and patient execution, compounding becomes your greatest ally, pushing you forward even when you're not watching. Number 9. Upgrade money habits for lifelong growth. Growth that lasts a lifetime begins with the habits you practice every single day, not the decisions you make once in a while. Money responds to patterns more than intention. It grows when your behavior aligns with discipline, clarity, and long-term thinking, and it slips away when your habits drift toward impulse, inconsistency, or emotional choices. Upgrading your money habits is not about becoming strict for a week or forcing yourself into temporary routine. It is about reshaping the way you think, behave, and respond to financial situations so that progress becomes automatic rather than occasional. Lifelong growth depends on habits that continue working even when motivation fades, because real stability comes from consistency, not bursts of effort. Every habit begins with awareness. You cannot upgrade what you cannot see. Many people operate with patterns they never recognize, small purchases made without thought, choices influenced by stress, or behaviors shaped by old beliefs about money. When these habits remain hidden, they silently drain your progress. But once you bring them into the open, you gain control over them. Awareness acts as the turning point because it sheds light on the unconscious routines shaping your financial direction. From that clarity, you begin replacing unhelpful behaviors with intentional ones that support your goals. Upgraded habits are rooted in purpose. When your money choices reflect the future you want rather than the mood you're in, every action carries meaning. You begin treating money as a tool for building stability, freedom, and opportunity, not as something to escape boredom or satisfy temporary cravings. This shift in mindset creates a new relationship with your finances. You become more thoughtful about where your money goes, more selective about what you value, and more patient with your long-term plans. Purpose gives your habits structure, allowing them to grow stronger with time. One of the most powerful upgrades involves practicing delayed gratification. The ability to pause, breathe, and make decisions from stability instead of impulse reshapes the path of your financial life. When you learn to wait, you gain perspective. You start recognizing which purchases add meaning and which simply fill gaps in the moment. You discover that the satisfaction of progress far outweighs the short-lived pleasure of unnecessary spending. This skill strengthens your financial foundation because it trains you to place long-term benefit above short-term emotion. Another important upgrade is embracing accountability. You grow faster when you hold yourself responsible for your decisions. This does not mean judging yourself harshly or feeling ashamed when you make mistakes. It means recognizing that your financial life is shaped by your actions, your patterns, and your consistency. Accountability brings maturity. It helps you avoid blaming circumstances and instead focus on building habits that adapt to challenges. This perspective turns you into someone who continues progressing even when life becomes unpredictable. Strong money habits also require boundaries. Without boundaries, your finances are exposed to tendencies that weaken your stability. These boundaries are not restrictions, they are protections. They shield your income from impulsive spending, emotional purchases, and unnecessary commitments. They allow you to say no when needed, and yes only when it aligns with your goals. Boundaries help you control your financial environment so that your habits thrive instead of struggle. Over time, these boundaries create a sense of security that strengthens your confidence and sharpens your judgment. To upgrade your habits, you must also refine your daily routines. Small behaviors compound into powerful results when repeated consistently. Choosing healthier spending patterns, reviewing your finances at set times, and practicing mindful decision-making gradually reshape your financial identity. When habits become routine, they no longer feel like effort, they feel like part of who you are. This transformation makes lifelong growth realistic because it aligns progress with your natural rhythm rather than forcing you into uncomfortable systems that eventually collapse. Your money habits also benefit from simplicity. Many people complicate their financial lives with too many rules, too many categories, or too many goals at once. This overwhelm leads to inconsistency, and inconsistency blocks growth. Simple habits are easier to maintain. They require less energy and produce smoother results. You might choose to track spending in a basic format, review your accounts once a week, allocate percentages instead of detailed budgets, or focus on one improvement at a time. Simplicity ensures sustainability, and sustainability ensures growth. Another essential upgrade comes from learning how to separate identity from income. A stable financial life is built on habits, not the size of your paycheck. Many people lose money because they try to maintain an image rather than strengthen their foundation. When you detach your worth from your spending, you break free from a cycle that traps countless individuals. You begin valuing progress over appearance, improvement over comparison, and security over momentary pride. This shift redirects your behavior toward choices that support long-term success instead of short-lived validation. A critical habit that supports lifelong growth is awareness of emotional triggers. Money is deeply connected to emotions, and understanding your triggers prevents impulsive decisions. Stress might push you to spend for comfort, boredom might nudge you toward unnecessary purchases, celebration might lead to excess. But when you recognize these triggers, you gain the ability to pause. With a pause comes control, and with control comes stability. Emotional awareness turns financial chaos into intentional action. Your money habits grow even stronger when you adopt a mindset of curiosity. Instead of fearing financial concepts or avoiding areas you don't understand, you approach them with interest. You explore new strategies, learn from mistakes, and seek clarity when needed. Curiosity transforms money from a source of anxiety into a subject of mastery. This mindset empowers you to make better decisions because you're willing to learn, adjust, and refine your behavior as you grow. One of the most valuable upgrades involves practicing gratitude for progress. When you appreciate improvement, no matter how small, you reinforce the habit that led to it. Gratitude strengthens discipline because it keeps your attention focused on growth rather than lack. It helps you maintain perspective during moments when the journey feels slow. This perspective prevents frustration from derailing your habits and allows compounding to continue working quietly in the background. Consistency becomes easier when you eliminate comparison. Your financial journey is shaped by your circumstances, your goals, and your pace. Comparing your progress to others creates unhealthy pressure that leads to rash decisions. When you stay centered on your own path, you make clearer choices, build stronger habits, and experience growth that lasts. Each step forward, no matter how small, becomes meaningful when you know it moves you toward a future designed intentionally. Over time, upgraded habits create a version of you who navigates money with maturity and clarity. You become less reactive, more thoughtful, and more stable. Your decisions reflect long-term vision rather than temporary emotion. You gain confidence because your actions consistently align with your goals. Your financial life becomes more predictable, less stressful, and more empowering. These habits support you not just today, but for decades because they shape the way you think and act every day. Lifelong growth is not built on dramatic changes. It is built on small, steady upgrades that reshape your behavior one day at a time. When those upgrades compound, they create a financial life rooted in strength, clarity, and resilience. Every improved habit becomes a stepping stone toward stability. Every disciplined choice becomes part of your foundation, and every intentional action moves you closer to the future you are building with patience and purpose. Through upgraded money habits, your growth becomes enduring, and your potential becomes limitless. Number 10. Protect wealth using disciplined financial boundaries. Disciplined financial boundaries act like invisible guards that quietly defend everything you've built. They don't shout, but they create a stable space where your progress can continue without constant threats pulling you backward. Without these boundaries, even strong income, ambitious goals, or smart planning can be eroded by pressure, impulsiveness, or the influence of people who don't share your priorities. The moment you begin treating your money with the same level of seriousness you apply to your most meaningful commitments, every decision becomes clearer and every step forward becomes less vulnerable to disruption. Protecting wealth is not about fearing loss, but about respecting value. Start by defining the non-negotiable rules that govern how you use, store, and grow money. These rules should be firm enough to eliminate uncertainty yet flexible enough to adapt when your life changes. One of the strongest boundaries is maintaining separation between essentials, responsibilities, and long-term growth. When these categories mix, everything gets blurry and you start making choices based on emotion instead of strategy. A simple, unwavering rule, such as treating investment contributions as untouchable, immediately creates a mental shift. It transforms those funds from something you hope to save into something you refuse to compromise. This commitment builds confidence over time because it reduces moments where you negotiate against yourself under stress or temptation. Another boundary involves regulating how much access others have to your financial decisions. Not everyone needs to know your progress, your income, your goals, or your struggles. The fewer people involved in your financial world, the fewer opportunities for emotional influence. You protect yourself from unsolicited advice, expectations that drain your focus, or obligations that pull you away from your priorities. Wealth often grows faster in environments of privacy, where your direction is guided by logic instead of comparison or pressure. When you limit conversations about money to trusted, knowledgeable voices, each decision becomes grounded rather than reactive. Your boundaries also need to address the environments where your money is most vulnerable. Many people experience setbacks not because they lack discipline, but because they repeatedly place themselves in situations that encourage overspending or unnecessary risk. Replace these environments with settings that reinforce control. For example, avoid subscription traps, high-temptation shopping spaces, or social circles where money is treated carelessly. Build new surroundings, digital and physical, that support your identity as someone serious about long-term financial security. Once your environment aligns with your goals, you naturally make steadier decisions because you aren't constantly battling internal friction. A critical boundary involves limiting emotional decision-making. Wealth preservation depends on your ability to pause before acting. Create a mandatory waiting period for any financial choice above a certain amount. This rule prevents emotional surges, both positive and negative, from steering your direction. When you wait, logic catches up, excitement cools, and impulses lose their grip. You start choosing based on outcome rather than mood. This single boundary protects you from reckless purchases, reactionary investments, and choices guided by stress rather than clarity. Another boundary is choosing what kind of risks you will never take. Wealth doesn't grow by avoiding all risk. It grows by rejecting chaotic, unpredictable ones. Create a personal list of unacceptable financial behaviors. For some, that means never borrowing for liabilities. For others, it means never chasing an investment you don't understand. These boundaries save you from long-term regret because they shield your future from decisions that only feel good in the moment. The moment you define what you will not do, no matter the situation, you gain a level of control that many people never experience. Protecting wealth also requires boundaries around your time and mental bandwidth. Money deteriorates when your attention is constantly scattered. Limit how often you check markets, news, or short-term fluctuations. Your emotional stability becomes part of your financial protection. When your mind is calm, patience grows naturally, and patience is one of the strongest gears in long-term wealth creation. Financial boundaries are not only about where your money goes, they're about where your energy goes. One of the most powerful boundaries involves separating your identity from your financial results. When you tie your self-worth to your net worth, you become vulnerable to emotional decisions and external validation. Wealth protection becomes difficult because every choice starts feeling personal. Instead, treat money as a system that responds to structure, not emotion. You become a stronger decision maker when you stop taking financial outcomes personally. This boundary strengthens resilience, allowing you to stay consistent even when circumstances shift unexpectedly. Another essential boundary is limiting lifestyle inflation. Each new opportunity to indulge or upgrade can easily become a silent drain that expands without you noticing. Establish a personal rule that your lifestyle can only grow after your assets have grown first. This creates a natural shield around your progress. Your expenses stop expanding impulsively, and any improvements in your life become earned, sustainable, and aligned with your long-term goals. This boundary keeps you grounded and prevents the subtle leaks that often erode wealth more quietly than major mistakes. Your boundaries should also guard against short-term rewards that sabotage long-term gain. You strengthen this by building a habit of rewarding yourself with experiences rather than liabilities. Train your mind to seek satisfaction in progress rather than consumption. When you experience the emotional reward of stability, growth, and discipline, you naturally lose attraction to habits that drain your financial strength. This transformation protects your wealth from within, making discipline an internal instinct rather than an external rule. The final layer of protecting wealth is maintaining regular financial reflection. Boundaries are ineffective if they are never reviewed. Set aside time every month to evaluate your financial behavior. Notice where you stayed disciplined and where you allowed pressure to influence your choices. Reflection strengthens boundaries because it builds self-awareness and prevents small slips from growing into problems. The act of consistently observing your relationship with money reinforces your commitment and sharpens your intuition. Disciplined financial boundaries aren't about restriction. They're about creating a stable foundation where your wealth can rise without being exposed to constant threats. Once these boundaries become part of your identity, your financial world becomes calmer, clearer, and more predictable. Growth feels smoother, setbacks become manageable, and every decision serves your long-term security. This is how wealth not only grows but remains protected for a lifetime.